Red Cross is, perhaps, the most successful charitable organization in history. However, their morals were tested during World War II. The Red Cross was founded to contribute humanitarian services during times of war. After the bloody Battle of Solferino in 1859, Jean-Henri Dunant, a witness to the battle, did all he could to bring comfort and aid to the soldiers who lay wounded and dying. The devastating carnage he witnessed at Solferino inspired Dunant to found the International Committee of the Red Cross. He wanted to be sure that what he had seen at Solferino would never happen again. In 1863, representatives from 16 different countries met in Geneva, Switzerland, and put together the Treaty of Geneva. This made the Red Cross an official organization. The Treaty of Geneva is a compromise represented by the Red Cross between conflicting nations. It consists of 3 vital principles. The Red Cross will care for all sick and wounded military personnel. Countries will recognize the neutrality of medical personnel, hospitals, and ambulances identified by the Red Cross emblem. The Red Cross will not take sides in battle. It will only care for those in danger. World War II put the conditions of Dunant's treaty to the test. In 1939, Adolf Hitler and his German troops invaded Poland, causing Great Britain and France to declare war. Soon thereafter, most of Europe was under the control of Nazi Germany. During this time, the Red Cross was caring for soldiers on both sides, but there was one group of victims remaining without aid. Under Hitler's totalitarian regime, millions of Jews, gypsies, and political opponents, among others, were deported to concentration camps. At these death camps, innocent men, women, and children faced hard labor or extermination. The following is a translation from Swedish of an interview with Eva Gustafsson, telling her friend Regina's Holocaust survival story. Regina lived a normal life in Poland with her parents and older sister. One day during the war, the Nazis arrived in her village and simply told her father, "You're coming outside with us." They lined him up with several other men in the courtyard, and as the victims' families watched, they were all shot. The soldiers later came back for Regina's mother, who suffered the same fate as her husband. The 2 sisters were alone, and Regina's sister became ill and died. Then, the Nazis came again to imprison Regina. As these multitudes suffered starvation, exposure, and disease, the Red Cross was stalled in a state of confliction. During the conflict of World War II, the internal compromise made by the International Committee of the Red Cross contradicted their humanitarian tenets and sealed the fate of imprisoned Jews. In October 1942, the International Committee of the Red Cross met to discuss the situation. Despite an overwhelming majority in favor of helping concentration camp inmates, the final verdict was not to get involved. This decision was based on the terms of the Treaty of Geneva, but was heavily influenced by fear. The committee was afraid that if they voiced dissent, the Nazis would end their accepted feed of food and supplies for prisoners of war. They were also concerned for their personal safety and that of Switzerland. However, it is unlikely that Hitler would have closed off the connection between the Red Cross and prisoners of war, as the Red Cross was also looking after German soldiers. It is also doubtful whether Germany would have expended resources in pursuing the committee, a group of only 23 people. Newspaper clippings regarding the Holocaust found in Red Cross databases put an end to the dispute of whether or not the organization was informed of the happenings in and around concentration camps. As an organization founded and based on humanitarian values, it was the Red Cross's responsibility to speak out against the Holocaust, regardless of any consequent risks. Mary Berg, a Jewish American, wrote of her experience living in the Warsaw Ghetto. "We literally see fresh human blood. We can smell it. Does the outside world know anything about it? Why does no one come to our aid? I cannot go on living. How long are we going to be kept here to witness all this?" While the Red Cross was struggling with their decision, Hitler was breaking all the conditions of the Geneva Treaty.
Germany is deliberately abusing the Red Cross. 2 seaplanes adorned with a swastika and the privilege symbol approached the British coast in company with fighter aircraft. Masquerading as Red Cross air ambulances, it was obvious that they were servicing planes. Our airmen did the only thing possible: they shot them down. It is not the first time Germany has abused the Red Cross.
Here's new evidence of the fact that the Nazis have fired on the wounded. American ambulances, quite badly shot up, tell the grim story. They were filmed on their return to Paris from the front, and you can see what the Red Cross of Mercy means to a German gunner, just nothing at all. But at an American ambulance station in France, they're painting out the Red Cross. That's what civilization has come to, thanks to Hitler, for it's now an established fact that the Red Cross is deliberately used as a target by the Nazi airmen. Our wounded are safer if the Red Cross can't be seen. There's already been plenty of evidence, but here's further proof. An ambulance train which was clearly marked on the roof and the sides has been bombed. Nor were the Nazis content with that. They afterwards flew low over the train, machine gunning the wounded.
These blatant violations of the treaty were painfully obvious, but once again the Red Cross said and did nothing to defend their treaty. It is lucky for the Red Cross that their Swedish branch had Count Bernadotte, the lone Red Cross member who recognized his call for duty and answered. While the International Committee was too intimidated to do anything about the Holocaust, Bernadotte knew something had to be done. He traveled with an expedition of white buses protected by the Red Cross emblem, rescuing around 15,000 concentration camp inmates. Kerstin Törnros recalls the arrival of Bernadotte's buses in Sweden. People rescued by Bernadotte's expedition were taken to Sweden and kept in a quarantine at 2 schools in Norrköping. They were sick, but my dad took me down to see them anyway and told me, "Never forget what you see here." And I have not. I cannot forget what I saw that day. Bernadotte's compromises with the Nazi forces and Himmler saved thousands of lives. Unfortunately, he and his expedition were the only ones to even attempt a rescue mission. As admirable as his efforts were, it would take more than Bernadotte to make a difference in the concentration camps, and the rest of the Red Cross was uninterested. However, the Red Cross also did many good things during the war. They ran blood drives and collected supplies and money for the men overseas. They are perhaps best remembered by the soldiers for their free coffee and donuts. Their supplies for prisoners of war were also greatly appreciated. The Red Cross nurses were also admired by the soldiers. Songs such as The Rose of No Man's Land were written about them, and there are countless war stories of soldiers seeking comfort from the volunteers.
Of course, the American young ladies that served us coffee and donuts, which we very rarely had over there. Of course, it's more of an American type food. And they would give us toothpaste and soap and toothbrushes, which sometimes we needed pretty much. But those were always pleasant. We always liked to talk to them because, as I say, it was a very pleasant experience because we couldn't talk to anybody. On the female side, we talked to our friends, of course, and our fellows in service, but it was that was always a good thing. It was a very social thing, and it was one of those times when I guess you'd say it's kind of take you back to the United States for a while.
Although the Red Cross did many beneficial things during the war, they failed in their most important duty. They didn't provide moral leadership or involve the world in stopping the Holocaust. If the Red Cross had spoken out about the ongoing tragedy, they may have been able to involve enough people and stop the Holocaust. The internal compromise made by the Red Cross cost millions of lives and tarnished their humanitarian mission forever. On December 9, 1948, a new convention was added to the Geneva Treaty, the Convention of the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. The ICRC today regrets its past errors and omissions. While the history cannot be rewritten, we intend to honor the victims of Nazi persecution by fighting for a world in which the dignity of every man, woman, and child will be respected. Today, the Red Cross saves millions of lives every year. As we speak, hundreds are being killed in the Darfurian genocide. Thousands have already died, and families are being ruthlessly torn apart. This time, the Red Cross is there. They have supplied families with food packages and handed out necessary household items. Engineers put water yards back into action, supplying 15,000 residents and displaced people with water. We can, however, not eliminate the Red Cross's mistakes during the war. Instead, we must continue to learn from this tragedy and prepare for the future as demonstrated by the new Geneva Conventions.
It just makes you think that how human beings could treat other people so poorly.